The marriage did not begin to collapse with a public argument, a scandalous photograph, or a whispered confession. It began with a sealed envelope placed on King Charles's desk during a quiet evening at Clarence House. Inside was proof that Queen Camilla had secretly negotiated with Prince Harry behind her husband's back. The promises she made threatened not only their decades-long relationship, but Charles's absolute authority over the entire royal family. Before we go deeper into what this explosive revelation really means for the crown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a single update on this unfolding historical crisis. Charles sat entirely alone after dinner when his private secretary entered carrying a restricted file. Clarence House, the monarch's London residence, had always felt like a sanctuary from the harsh machinery of statecraft. That evening, it became the place where ultimate trust went to die. The file had surfaced during a routine security sweep of unauthorized communications. One signed note carried Camilla's unmistakable handwriting. Charles opened it once, then again, as the world beneath his feet shattered completely. For decades, the bond between King Charles and Queen Camilla was portrayed as an enduring romance that withstood political exile, public condemnation, and intense media scrutiny. When they finally married, the royal couple presented a united front to a skeptical nation. Camilla was widely credited with stabilizing Charles, serving as his steady companion through the stormiest chapters of his life. However, beneath the polished exterior of palace galas and formal appearances, deep structural fractures were forming within the institution. The unexpected departure of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to California had fractured the family dynamic beyond recognition. Harry's relentless public attacks, bombshell memoirs, and media interviews inflicted deep emotional wounds on his father. Throughout the ordeal, King Charles maintained a firm, unyielding boundary. The king believed that protecting the dignity of the monarchy meant enforcing strict distance from his younger son until complete accountability was demonstrated. Camilla publicly aligned herself with Charles's stern stance. In private strategy sessions with senior palace aides, she echoed the king's insistence that compromise would signal weakness to the global public. Yet, behind this carefully constructed facade of complete loyalty, Camilla was quietly harboring her own deep anxieties about the future. The Queen watched as Charles's health struggles and rising public pressure began to weigh heavily on his spirit. She saw a monarch increasingly consumed by stress, trapped between his duties as king and his lingering grief as a father. But Camilla's concern was not purely compassionate. She was acutely aware of her own fragile standing within the royal hierarchy. Her elevated position as queen had been achieved after years of relentless public relations maneuvering, and she knew that without absolute control over palace dynamics, her influence could rapidly evaporate under a future reign. The tension reached a boiling point following a series of quiet, unresolved disagreements behind palace doors. Camilla grew convinced that Charles's inflexible refusal to negotiate with Harry was actively destroying the monarchy's public image and creating a perpetual state of media warfare. She began to believe that if the ongoing feud with the Duke of Sussex was left to burn, it would permanently taint their joint legacy. Worse still, Camilla feared that Prince William's growing influence within the household was systematically isolating her from critical long-term decisions. The Prince of Wales had long harbored his own complicated feelings toward his stepmother, and as heir to the throne, his authority was expanding daily. Camilla recognized that her power base was tied entirely to Charles's absolute supremacy. If Charles appeared weak, indecisive, or crippled by family drama, her own standing would suffer irreparable damage. Driven by a dangerous combination of ambition, fear, and wounded pride, Camilla made a fateful choice. She decided that where the king had failed to bring resolution, she would succeed alone. Operating entirely in the shadows, she instructed a high-ranking personal aide to establish an off-the-record, encrypted communication link with Harry's representatives in California. The objective was simple: build a private route of influence that bypassed official palace protocols, the king's private secretaries, and Prince William's watchful eye. Camilla was stepping onto a hazardous political tightrope. She convinced herself that she was performing an act of diplomatic mercy, a bold intervention to save the monarchy from its own internal paralysis. But in reality, she was initiating a high-stakes power play that violated the most sacred boundaries of royal authority and marital trust, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation that would shake the crown to its very foundation. The definitive proof rested directly in the palm of King Charles's trembling hand. The correspondence folder did not contain mere rumors or vague reports from palace courtiers. It contained physical paper trails, encrypted message transcripts, and a handwritten note bearing Queen Camilla's distinct signature. The documents detailed a series of covert exchanges spanning several months between Camilla's closest confidant and Prince Harry's legal team in Montecito. The terms outlined in the secret files were nothing short of breathtaking. Camilla had offered Harry a protected, private pathway back into selected royal events, access to non-sensitive family briefings, and her personal pledge to act as his secret advocate within the inner circle. In exchange, Harry was asked to tone down his public criticisms and allow Camilla to present the eventual family peace as her own masterstroke of diplomacy. The sentence that struck Charles like a physical blow was written in Camilla's own hand: "I can soften the king's position from within, provided our channel remains entirely hidden." The words turned their marriage into political leverage and his personal vulnerabilities into a bargaining tool. Charles felt a sickening wave of betrayal wash over him. The color drained from his face as his secretary stood in tense, uncomfortable silence across the room. The king removed his glasses, setting them heavily beside the exposed pages. The monarch, who had spent his entire life defending his wife against public judgment, was now forced to confront the reality that she had systematically undermined his authority. The correspondence proved that this was not a sudden lapse in judgment or a quick act of maternal sympathy. It was a calculated, protected maneuver designed to build an independent power structure around his perceived weakness. Footsteps echoed softly along the corridor outside the study, and a moment later, Queen Camilla appeared near the doorway. She stopped short, sensing the heavy, suffocating distance in the room. Her eyes fell on the red folder lying open on the desk. Charles could not bring himself to look directly at her. The silence between husband and wife was cold and absolute. Camilla did not ask what had been discovered. The presence of the internal security file said everything. Without uttering a single word of explanation, the king closed the folder with a sharp snap and ordered his secretary to clear the room. He commanded an immediate, full-scale internal investigation to trace every single message, identify every intermediary, and determine whether anyone else within the royal family had knowledge of the covert negotiations. Within hours, the quiet atmosphere of Clarence House fractured into a state of absolute panic. Senior household staff were summoned to emergency midnight briefings. Secure phone lines between London and Sandringham buzzed continuously as officials scrambled to assess the constitutional damage. The king's inner circle was paralyzed by shock. If details of the Queen's secret channel leaked to the global press, it would trigger the worst constitutional crisis since the abdication. The king was no longer just a heartbroken husband dealing with a personal betrayal. He was a sovereign monarch facing a direct challenge to his authority from inside his own private quarters. The quiet sanctuary of his home had dissolved into a battleground, and the trust that had taken decades to construct had been destroyed in a single evening. By the following morning, the internal investigation yielded an even more devastating discovery, escalating the crisis into uncharted territory. Security auditing teams reviewing digital access logs at Buckingham Palace uncovered a catastrophic breach of protocol. Just days before Camilla's secret channel delivered its most detailed proposal to California, someone operating from within the Queen's private office had accessed a highly restricted schedule outlining future royal estate security protocols and confidential family briefing notes. The implication was immediate and horrifying. Restricted intelligence may have been offered to Harry's camp as tangible proof that Camilla possessed the power to deliver on her promises. The scandal was no longer a private marital dispute. It had transformed into a severe breach of royal operational security. When Prince William was summoned to Sandringham to review the findings, his reaction was swift and unyielding. The Prince of Wales had long maintained an unbending stance regarding security and institutional discipline. Seeing the documented evidence of his stepmother's secret backchannel sent shockwaves through the future king's office. William recognized that Camilla's covert maneuvering threatened the fundamental integrity of the line of succession. If a queen consort could construct an independent diplomatic policy behind the reigning monarch's back, the entire framework of royal governance would crumble. William confronted his father in an emotional, high-stakes meeting, arguing that Camilla's actions represented an intolerable threat that required immediate, uncompromising sanctions. The palace grounds were gripped by an eerie, unnatural quiet as staff moved through the corridors in hushed tension. Behind closed doors, King Charles found himself completely trapped between two opposing forces. On one side stood his heir, demanding absolute institutional discipline and the immediate removal of Camilla's key advisors. On the other side stood his wife, who maintained that her actions were driven by a desperate desire to protect the family from further public destruction. The emotional toll on the king was devastating. The monarch was forced to face the harsh reality that his own household was actively tearing itself apart from the inside. Every conversation felt compromised, every advisor was viewed with suspicion, and the boundary between family loyalty and royal duty had been obliterated. Just as the internal crisis reached its absolute peak, a fresh shockwave hit the palace communications team. An encrypted message from an unknown intermediary was routed directly to the king's private office, containing a chilling warning. Copies of the signed correspondence between Camilla's office and Montecito were held on external, off-grid servers outside the UK. The anonymous sender implied that if any attempt was made to scapegoat the staff involved or publicly deny the existence of the negotiations, the full physical records would be made available to major international news outlets. The palace was now facing an imminent, catastrophic global leak that could break at any moment, leaving the entire royal institution teetering on the edge of unprecedented public exposure. News of the internal rupture began seeping into the public sphere through cryptic social media posts and sudden, unexplained shifts in royal scheduling. Online forums and royal commentary channels exploded with intense speculation when eagle-eyed observers noticed that Queen Camilla's name had been quietly removed from several upcoming high-profile strategy meetings. Within hours, trending topics related to the royal family dominated global social media platforms. Anonymous insider accounts on X, formerly Twitter, began circulating leaked rumors about a massive fallout at Clarence House, triggering tens of thousands of posts, fan theories, and frantic debates across TikTok and YouTube. Royal commentators scrambled to go live, analyzing every minute detail of the couple's recent public appearances for subtle signs of physical distance or emotional strain. Major news networks quickly picked up on the rising digital storm. Headlines across global outlets began openly questioning the sudden atmosphere of secrecy surrounding the palace. Veteran royal correspondents noted that the usual coordinated PR responses from Buckingham Palace had completely ground to a halt, replaced by an ominous, total media blackout. Mainstream newspapers published front-page articles dissecting the rumored power struggle between the King's office and the Queen's private staff. Tabloid headlines blared sensationalized claims of a monarchy in chaos and the palace secret that could change everything. The vacuum created by the palace's silence was instantly filled by frantic media speculation, with experts debating whether the reported rift involved Prince Harry, Prince William, or a fundamental breakdown of the king's authority. The public reaction was instantly, deeply divided, creating a fierce digital battleground. Critics and anti-monarchy groups seized upon the rumored scandal, using the reports of secret backchannels and internal betrayals to argue that the royal institution was hopelessly dysfunctional, elitist, and out of touch. Supporters of Prince Harry flooded social media platforms, framing the leak as further evidence that the Duke of Sussex had been manipulated by palace politics and used as a pawn in an internal game of power. Meanwhile, traditional monarchists expressed profound outrage at the prospect of Queen Camilla acting behind the king's back, flooding online forums with calls for accountability and demanding official statements from the crown. Celebrity commentators, prominent podcasters, and media personalities across the globe joined the frenzy, offering exaggerated takes on the unfolding drama. YouTube commentary channels racked up millions of views in a matter of hours by breaking down fake social media threads, analyzing altered audio clips, and speculating on potential divorces or abdications. The narrative had completely escaped the control of Buckingham Palace's elite communication staff. Every hour brought new rumors, exaggerated claims, and viral debates that fanned the flames of public curiosity. The monarchy was caught in the center of a relentless media circus, with millions of people around the world glued to their screens, frantically waiting to see if the royal family would survive the devastating fallout. As the global media storm reached a fever pitch, a devastating third revelation emerged from deep within the palace walls, completely turning the narrative on its head. The internal security review uncovered that Prince Harry had never actually agreed to Queen Camilla's secret terms. In fact, a confidential transcript of a direct phone call between Harry and his legal team revealed that the Duke of Sussex believed he was being lured into a sophisticated public relations trap. Harry suspected that Camilla was using the covert negotiations to create a paper trail that could later be leaked to portray him as desperate for royal validation. Realizing he was being used as leverage in an internal palace power struggle, Harry had quietly preserved every single electronic record, text message, and document sent by Camilla's team as an insurance policy to protect himself. When King Charles was informed that his son held the ultimate key to exposing the Queen's secret maneuvering, the realization hit him with crushing weight. The king understood that the stability of his reign now rested in the hands of the very son he had distanced himself from. In an unprecedented move of sheer desperation, Charles bypassed all palace staff, advisors, and security protocols to place a direct, highly confidential phone call to Montecito. For the first time in years, father and son spoke without courtiers listening or secretaries taking notes. The conversation was reportedly tense, raw, and deeply emotional. Charles asked for the absolute truth regarding the extent of the promises made by Camilla's office, facing the devastating reality of his wife's actions directly from his estranged son. During the explosive call, Prince Harry made a staggering disclosure that left the king completely speechless. Harry revealed that Camilla's backchannel had not stopped at offering access to royal events and private briefings. In a desperate bid to secure Harry's total silence, a senior representative from Camilla's office had tentatively suggested that the Queen Consort could use her influence to help alter future financial distributions and property arrangements once the current reign shifted. Camilla's team had essentially offered to reshape royal assets in exchange for Harry's total cooperation. The revelation transformed the situation from a marital betrayal into a catastrophic institutional scandal that threatened to tear the line of succession apart and trigger irreversible legal consequences. Charles ended the call in a state of profound shock and deep emotional exhaustion. The monarch walked out onto the private terrace of his estate, staring into the dark, quiet grounds as the full weight of the nightmare settled upon him. His marriage was in total ruin, his trust in his closest partner had been permanently incinerated, and his eldest son and heir was demanding immediate, public action against the Queen Consort's inner circle. Yet, deep down, Charles knew that exposing Camilla completely would destroy the global credibility of the crown forever. He was a king trapped in an impossible, agonizing dilemma: protect the woman he had loved for decades and risk losing his monarchy, or sacrifice his queen to save the future of the British crown. The immediate crisis reaches its absolute climax tonight behind the heavily guarded gates of Buckingham Palace. Emergency meetings are currently underway in the king's private quarters, with top constitutional lawyers, senior advisors, and Prince William present. Queen Camilla remains completely isolated in her private apartments, stripped of her official scheduling access and surrounded by an atmosphere of absolute silence. Palace aides have been placed under strict non-disclosure orders, but insiders whisper that an official, unprecedented statement from the throne is being drafted at this very moment. Is this the catastrophic event that permanently destroys the relationship between King Charles and Queen Camilla? Will Prince Harry release the physical evidence holding the royal family hostage, or will Prince William force a dramatic, public restructuring of the royal household that changes the monarchy forever? The truth is unraveling faster than the palace can control it, and the consequences of this epic betrayal will resonate for generations to come. What do you think about Queen Camilla's secret deal? Was she genuinely trying to fix a broken family, or was this a calculated power play for ultimate control? Drop your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on all notifications because we have another massive, exclusive update breaking very soon that you absolutely cannot afford to miss. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next chapter in this unfolding royal disaster.